Today we're talking about how to use your DAWs in your iPad, but with a remote control. What I mean by that is most DAWs can be, if they're well built, and I'm going to say that, yes, if they're well programmed, because those who do not support it, please fix it. It's a tool we use to make music. We should be able to use what we call controls for transports and for everyday remote control of the DAWs, meaning not just the performance that we record into them using MIDI, but like I have this Nektar, wait a sec. I have this Nektar controller, which of course play notes and pads, and you've got knobs. Of course, you want the knobs to be able to control something that is logical for you to use, but also we have stop, play, record, change tracks. This is something I want to be able to use in any DAW. There is no universal way to control a DAW. What I mean by that is that there's no protocol that forces every DAW to respond to the same MIDI messages to do the same things. There's some stuff that is clear, like stop, continue, song position pointer. These are stuff that are dedicated information in MIDI, like MIDI machine control, MMC. But a lot of DAWs do not support MMCs, so you have to actually on the iPad, because other DAWs usually do. This one is capable of doing some surprisingly powerful things, but when you use it with a computer, there's, I would say, like templates you can download, and you can put inside your DAW and then tell the DAW to be controlled by this. And this is not because this is super wonderful and the best keyboard ever. It's because the DAWs like Live, Studio One, Reason, they have the option of having this kind of template that says, when I receive this message, I do this with that. When I receive this message, I'm going to do next measure. When I do this message, that's going to be loop active, loop inactive. So these messages can be programmed in a file, and then you can load that into your favorite DAW. But it has to be done for each DAW separately because it is DAW specific. And that's where it hurts, because this option of having this optimize remapping, if you want, of the different controllers that I have on this one or any other controllers that you have to specific controls of the DAW that you're using, well, it depends on how the DAW can receive it. Of course, the device itself can be adjusted or not, depending on the DAW. In this case, you can actually mostly reconfigure this the way you want. And a lot of other controllers also give you the option of reassigning each knob to a new MIDI message, for example. But then to have this respond the way you want on the specific DAW means you still going to have that little layer of integration or remapping between what's coming in from the controller and how it's going to be modifying or controlling the DAW. Now, on the iPad, there's, of course, less DAWs than you have on computers, and they're often, sadly, a scaled-down version. Some of them are exactly the same or almost the same. Zenbeats is one, but then when you say, well, Zenbeats doesn't do this and does that, again, it's all a question of how you use your DAWs and what you do with it, and they've been made for playing with the interface physically on it. So some of the developers never thought of having a controller remote controlling it, because you would actually mix with your fingers on the iPad itself. But let's say you want to put your iPad on the side and play on a keyboard or with faders on a controller that would send MIDI controllers, you might want to have this and control it right way. So what are the standards that we see? Well, there's the MMC we just talked about, which is a MIDI machine control. These are standard information you can use. It doesn't cover everything, but it covers some controls. And I tested it with, because you can put this keyboard in MMC mode, and it works on the DAWs that supports it. In this case, Aurea Pro does support it, but Aurea Pro, I'm not gonna... I did talk about it because I love that mixer interface for mixing stuff, but then I lost so many sessions in the past when you turn it on and then all the plugins are gone, Armor preset, my automation are gone. I decided to stop using it. So, but I know that it works with MMC. So if it's stable on your computer, on your iPad, go for it. But it actually responds to MMC. But then what else is kind of a standard? Well, on computers, the only real kind of standard that we saw in the past was the Mackie UE. So the UE was created for Pro Tools. It was made as a controller. It looked like a mixer, but basically it was just MIDI faders, you know? So it could, if any other DAW would support it, it could just control any DAW. And that's what other company made. Gradually, they were compatible with the UE protocol. A lot of hardware should support, like this should have, and I'm talking to you, Nektar people, you should have a UE mode in this. So you just activate the UE mode, and then you're able to actually, again, not all the DAWs, but then again, I would ask every DAW to be compatible with the UE protocol or any other protocol. If there's one coming on with MIDI 2, please support it natively. There's the UE supported format in Cubasis, for example, on the iPad, but that's about it. All the others are not supporting it, you know? So it's kind of I wish, but it doesn't. It's kind of in between. But that being said, most of the DAWs now have a learn function. And you can basically create the little patch that we talked about earlier. The fact that you can have this little patch that converts or remap these buttons into messages for the different software that you're using. Because this works, as I said earlier, it works with Live and Logic and Cubase and Reason and Studio One and Fruity Loops for this one, for example. And there's presets for each of these software. So it is, you just load that in and say, use that remote value, and it works, and it's going to be reassigned to the real things. You can do the same thing, not entirely, but most of it. You can do a big chunk of it by programming yourself. Some of this inside and some of it in your DAW. So let's actually look into what you can do on the box itself using the MIDI protocol that is built in, or options that are built in. And let's look at what you can do on the iPad using Cubasis and Zenbeats. The two good examples of ways that you can create that little file that give you not 100% of integration. Let's say enough that you can actually make it into some type of remote control of it. Okay, let's go. First of all, let's look at what the Impact Mini offers. You have two. I did another video about how this works. You have two sets of controllers here. So you get the keys, you get the pads. They can be on a separate channel. It could be the same channel. You can assign the notes to whichever you want. You get two arpeggiator, one for this and one for this. So you could have two controlling two MIDI channels differently. So it's really interesting in the way you use it. And this could be controllers if you're in arpeggiator mode. It's going to be for controlling your arpeggiator. That's what you have here. Tempo, arpeggiator mode, arp octave. There's actually another one here called gate. I don't have it on the panel, but it's there. Since I did two firmware updates to this device, there are some features that are in it, but they're not labeled on it. So this is like gate here. And there's also something here, trigger for the sustain pedal can be assigned to the part number 2. So there's two parts. Okay. What I want you to hear, or what I want you to see here is you also have instrument. And when you're in instrument, you have controls here to control usually what you have in the plugin. And that's where the software add-on, if you want, that you put in your favorite DAW will give you control of where this goes. And then you got internal, but internal now are just controllers. So the could be controller number 73, whatever it is. These are different controllers, MIDI messages, and you have 2 sets for this. So the blue and the white one. So you have 8 and 8 of these, so 16 of these. Then you have these here. Now, by default, stop, play, record. It should work, but it doesn't, because whatever. You can reset the whole thing to the factory reset, and you can also change different mode. But then when you talk about changing modes and programming this unit, a lot of devices use the same logic that if you look here, there's no LCD panel on this. The way to control the internal values is using these here. You see, you got cancel, you got CC assign, program assign, MIDI channel assign, pad learn. Pad learn is basically these pads here. If you want to learn or assign a note for each of them, you can click on the pad and when you're in pad learn, and then press the key, and it's going to learn that it's going to play a C3, whatever it is. Now, to know all of these information, this is in the manual, people. You go online, you go register your unit on Nektar website, and you download the manual, and it's very clear what you can do. Now, to get into this is internal control, so you have to press shift and internal. And you see now it's flashing. So it's waiting to say, okay, what do you want me to change? Let's say I want to change, in this case, USB mode, USB port mode. I press on it once, and now it waits to say, okay, you want to have which one? Well, in the manual, they say that if I go into MMC control, transport, if I want to have that, I need to press on 3. So you see 0, 1, 2, and 3. So this one here, press this one, I press enter. Now, I put it in mode number 3. This is the MMC mode. So this will work with Audio Pro, for example, but it won't work with Cubasis. So now I want to reset factory this. So I need to turn it off to reset factory. I need to press on octave and octave and turn it back on. Back to factory reset. Done. Let's say you want to assign an internal this knob to something else. Well, I could say shift internal. I say CC assign, and I will move this one, and I want to CC assign to 73. I'm going to say 73 and enter. So now this one's going to be sending 73 as a MIDI message. So of course you need to know what MIDI message you want to have. But if you have a dedicated soft synth that is already assigned to specific MIDI messages for all of the values, you could enter the value you want, and this will be internally saved. If you turn it off and back on, it's going to stay there. Now the question is, how do I save this? If, let's say, I want to have another one. So there's the memory dump. Now, memory dump is an old school way of doing things. It's system exclusive. It's exclusive to this. It's basically the memory of this device saved to a MIDI file. And that's how we did it for a lot of hardware before USB was popular or even existed, or even before we saved on little disk and stuff like that. So to save with system exclusive is basically you need to take one track of your sequencer, verify that you're not filtering system exclusive at the input, and then press record on that track and just press memory dump. It's going to send all the information of the backup of the memory as a system exclusive message that says exactly, okay, this knob does this knob does that. And then it just explains everything that this one has as a memory. And the next time you want to load it back in, well, you need to play back that track and send it to the Impact Mini to say this is exclusive to this one. Anyway, if you send it to another device, it will not respond because it's exclusive to this unit or any Impact LX Mini. It's old school, but it's a great way to actually save it with the song. So you take one track of the song, it's going to be system exclusive backup of this, save it there, and you want to load it back in 5 years later, it's with the song. Lower power. So low power means it's going to take less USB power. Let's say you run with your iPad. It's interesting for somebody who want to be mobile with the iPad. With this, it means that the low power, all the LEDs will be turned off. It's still going to work, but it's going to use a lot less electricity. So you can run off the iPad without another power supply or USB battery that is there to supply for the lights to turn on. So you can put it in low power. There's different things that are interesting. But let's say factory reset again, back to normal. I want to use this with Cubasis. I'm in. Okay, you can see that. If I press on click, you see that the click is turned on or off. Turn on. It plays. Stop. Record. Record right here. I can loop. Turn it on. I can actually go to the end of the loop or beginning of the loop. And if I press shift, do I have access to, I can zoom out and zoom in. I actually assign it to the one at the bottom. And that's about it. Now, how did I do that? Okay, so I went into setup and I went into MIDI. I said MIDI Learn and I pressed Learn. And see, all of these window appears now and you've got the whole thing in front of you. So I was able to say, let's press on, let's say, this one, and say it's going to be this one. And I say, the recording one is going to be record. I could assign to something else, you see? But no, I want to assign to this. And I even assigned these two here, this one, to this and this. So this is going up and this one is going down. So I can change the tracks. So if I turn this thing exit, now you can see that if I press here, I can go for this track. Now I have this little controller that works the way I want. Of course, you could do the same thing with, let's say I'm going to open the Model D. Now, if you want to do it with Model D and assign this to a knob, we're going to have to go inside the Model D. So MIDI, map MIDI. You can now map it. So you can say, well, I want to assign this one to this. And then you just click select on the screen, turn the knob, and becomes assigned to this knob. So if I turn this thing off now, close this window, now this one is also. So it works, but you understand that each plugin needs to be assigned, but I think it's the right way to do it because I don't need the same control that you want into your plugin. So assign the one you want, and then it's going to be saved with the song. So it's in the song with your, so don't change it on the controller itself if it's not really useful. Change it in your song and save your song. That's the logic. And you can basically do the same thing with Zenbeats. If you look at just a new track, so you see there's MIDI coming in. If I want to record, I'm going to press record, MIDI Learn, and then you touch a control, then move the hardware. Okay. Well, I press play. Now I say MIDI Learn. Okay, and press stop, and it's going to be stop. So play, stop. Play works right away. So again, it's a question of how the sequencer, the DAW that you're using, can receive these messages. But as soon as you have this, you save it. So I suggest that you do this basic control like play, stop, fast forward, click, and stuff, anything that you can control, and save it as your template. And call it template of Nektar Impact LX MIDI. So when you start a song from scratch, you load that one, you already have these remote control built in. And then you create the one you want with the different synthesizer as you load them in. So, okay, I like to control this. And then you just learn the couple of little ones that you need, and that's it. So use these control, and then what's interesting is you can put in real time, record them, then use them in real time and record it. So it becomes more, I would say, performance linked than drawing stuff. That's it. That's how you can do it. Of course, I'm doing this with the Nektar Impact LX Mini right now, but you can do it in other controllers. I mean, make it yours. Tune it. Make it so that the Learn feature gives you the control that you need. Do it. Have fun. Make more music. Stay safe. See you soon.